All right. Well, I don't want to take up too much time waiting, so I want to make sure to make the best use of the time for those that have joined us this evening. And thank you very much, Azizbek, Solomon, and Kiros. Thank you for spending time with us. And if anybody does jump in, then we'll get them up to speed and have plenty of time at the end for Q&A that we can just get into a conversation and help you guys figure out what this opportunity is that is a coding or career boot camp. And so I'll go ahead and get us started. And I'd like to introduce our Brady Bunch panel of Max guests that we have with us. Denise Bartik is the owner of Max Technical Training. So Denise has given you a wave. We also have Sean Blessing, a senior instructor at Max and a fan favorite for sure. And then we've got Annette Ballard, who is our career advisor. Lovely Annette, you'll get to talk to everybody today. And we've also got Kevin Newkirk, who is our bootcamp success specialist. And some of you may have already talked to him. And I'm Dustin Miller. I work in a marketing role and I'm a former bootcamp success specialist. So I've been in Kevin's chair and I want to help moderate and host our way through our Bootcamp Breakdown, which is a knowledge session where we get to share our information about our career boot camps and help you make a decision that maybe could be career changing or life changing. So again, thank you everyone for joining us. And during this hour, we're going to talk about why Max is different. What is different about the experience in our career boot camps? How to select a boot camp? What is the right boot camp for you? Is it our maximum boot camp? Is it data analytics? We've got a fresh new lineup of boot camps that we're really excited about. And we're going to talk about what is a maximum boot camp and why is it unique. But before we get into the details, Max has been a training partner to the IT community since 1998. It's really been a partnership with corporations that are looking for the advanced IT training for their employees. And that's really where the bootcamp was originally born. And since 2012, we boast more than 200 plus graduates. And now we've got a full bootcamp lineup. We've got 4 different boot camps that you can consider for your future and for a career in IT. But to choose the right boot camp, we'd like to help you focus on a few items. And so really we want to start off by talking about what your learning style is. We've got different formats of boot camp depending on the languages you're going to learn, the technology you're going to learn, the timing of the consumption of the classes and when they happen. So we're going to talk a little bit about the lifestyle fit for you and also your learning style. Which way do you learn best? Are you fully immersive, Monday through Friday, just all day, every day? Or is it a better fit to consider maybe something like a part-time where you're going, 2 evenings and 1 day on the weekend? So it's a little bit of a lighter load. So that's something to keep in mind. But we also want to consider your family, your obligations, your responsibilities, your personal goals, your career goals. And that's something that Kevin is going to talk to you about when you spend time with your bootcamp advisor and even talk to Annette Ballard is, where do you want to go? What do you really want to do? We want to help you find something that you can really be passionate about. And then there's the technology and how invested the team is. You need the right technology to get the return on investment so that you can go out into the job market and be absolutely competitive. That requires a very invested team from a lot of different angles to make a holistic approach to your training. And that's the Max team. And so this is, the circle of individuals that are going to put time and care into your development and into your training. And it starts off with Kevin right at the top because he's going to help guide you through the process of considering your options, selecting your boot camp, going through your assessment, and just really making sure that you're taken care of and have a great experience along the way. Kim is going to make sure that your forms are handed in right. She's going to get you everything you need, your computer, all of your curriculum and supplies that are included in the cost of the boot camp. So you're going to be well taken care of right from the beginning. And we have a very open door policy. We're kind of a close group at Max. And so you'll be able to talk to Denise, and whether it's virtually or hopefully we get back in the building, and some classes are back in the building, but she loves to interact and engage and really find out as a person how you're doing, how the boot camp is going for you. And Of course, you've got our senior instructors, Sean and Greg. These are going to be the two individuals that you're going to spend probably the most time with throughout your boot camp. And they're going to instruct you on not just the technology, but you also get access to their experience and some of that one-on-one advice that really helps you, get a good understanding of the languages and the technology and what it's like to be a developer. And hey, Mark, thank you for joining us. Real quick, I want to take us a moment to recognize Mark. Hey, there's
Hey,
Mark.
sorry I'm late.
Hey,
I had
no
a call with
problem.
my CEO that ran long and lost track of time.
And so for everybody that's on the call with us, Mark is with Ascendum, and he is one of our hiring partners that graciously dedicates a little bit of time for us to be able to give you access to what's going on in the hiring world and what companies are thinking. And he's the Senior VP of Corporate Development at Ascendum. So Mark, thank you very much for joining us. We just got into the third slide. We had some we're testing Zoom versus WebEx today and some interesting technology challenges. So thank you very much.
Yeah, no, for sure. I'm on my mobile right now, so I'm gonna flip to my desktop. So if I drop, and I'll come back on the other line, that way I can interact more if there's questions in a second, because mobile's not ideal for that. But I'll let you know how to come on.
Sure, thank you very much. And so working our way back around the circle, Annette will handle your career advisement training and, talking about your resume, the impact you have in the room, your strengths, and Annette will go over some of those here in the presentation in a little bit. But then we also have some very interesting experts that we add into the mix, like Kendra Ramirez to work on your personal branding and talk about LinkedIn and getting your profile filled out, because it's just absolutely important today. And, Kelsey Apple is also in the circle as an instructor that comes in and spends time talking about agile and the agile mindset. And that's really valuable out in the job market today. So we sprinkled a little bit of that in. And then to really tie it all together, Heinrich Stander is the owner of Rocket Fueled Futures. And he comes in to talk about emotional intelligence, soft skills, reading the room and interacting in an interview and in meetings and being a part of a dynamic team. So when you think about a boot camp, this is not just out of the box, out of a book training. This is really looking at you as a person and saying, what do individuals that are seeking a career in IT really need to be successful out in the job market and in their role? And we think we have one of the best and most unique mixes of experts that we surround you with to make sure that you're successful, because ultimately that's what our goal is to watch you be successful. And so one of the things that's new, and I mentioned before, is our MAXimum Coding Bootcamp. And this is extremely exciting. And when Mark comes back, it's definitely something we're going to talk about. But traditionally, the traditional bootcamp model is typically one core language and then, some other technologies around it. But you're either going in Java or .NET. Starting in May, it will be the very first Java and .NET bootcamp where you are being taught equally to code hands-on and do your work in both languages. We're not just talking, the syntax difference between one or the other. It's really hands-on training in both languages. So when you're sitting in the, sometimes you're in a waiting room for an interview and there's other people there and they're waiting for their interview. Think about that moment and when you're in that competition for what your skills are. And we believe this is going to make very competitive developers, because our hiring partners and our alumni are all telling us, I've been asked to work on .NET even though I came out of Java, and we need multi-language developers that are capable in both cores. So that's something that's really cool. And we'll definitely talk about that a little bit further. But first, let's really talk about the lifestyle fit of a boot camp. And we have mothers returning to the workforce. We have individuals working third shift jobs and trying to figure out how to get their training and make things work. Our MAXimum Bootcamp is full-time Monday through Friday, and it's 13 weeks. What you're looking at here in this chart and these graphs is you're looking at what a week is going to be like for you. the amount of study time that you're going to have, the amount of work, course time. It even considers, you know, time for commuting, because this is a life-changing decision for you, and this is really going to change your schedule. So when you look at the full-time and then you look over at the part-time, the part-time is much lighter in course hours, in study. It's equal in sleep, hopefully. Your commute's a little less because it's 3 days and not 5, but the other is at 75. And the reason that we developed the part-time boot camp is because not everybody can just lay down life and their responsibilities and go and jump into a boot camp Monday through Friday. So there is a price difference with the change in the MAXimum Bootcamp. The addition of the Java and .NET, both core technologies, the price on the MAXimum full-time bootcamp that's 13 weeks is $15,500, and it can most be likened to getting a drink of water from a fire hose. So that goes to your learning style. The part-time is only Java right now. We do have a part-time coming up at the end of summer, and it is only Java, but the price is a little bit lower. And that one is a handful of evenings and a collection of Saturdays over 6 months. So that one will take about 6 months to complete the 25 weeks. The full-time is 13 weeks. So this is kind of one of those first decision points for you if you were to mark one. What's going to fit your lifestyle the best? And so, Sean, I'm going to go ahead and bring you in now because we need to talk about the technology. This is a significant, this is your you know, for all of our guests, this is kind of your next point of decision making, is looking at what technology is going to be covered in the boot camp and what kind of a return on investment it's going to be for you when you go out there to apply for jobs, and what you're going to need to show proof of your capabilities. So Sean, why don't you give our guests a little introduction of yourself first, and then kind of run down the technology for them and help them understand what it is they're looking at.
I was getting ready to talk and I realized I was still muted. Sorry about that. Yeah, so my name is Sean Blessing, and I have been in IT for 25-ish years now. Gosh, going on more than that, closer to 30, not quite there yet, but I started out my career as a software developer, and I, kind of like what you're going to have to do in your careers. I was trained in one technology in college, but then had to immediately adapt and switch to something else in my job. Unfortunately for me, that switch was an older technology, and I had to learn how to program mainframe computers, so IBM mainframes. I did not like it at all, but it was a job, and it was a great job, actually. So I adapted to that really quick. But then very shortly thereafter was the evolution of the internet and websites. And so a couple of fellow developers and I took it upon ourselves to learn web development, and specifically Java, which had just come out around the same time. And we built our company's first website, online transactions, interfacing with the mainframe. It was a pretty big deal. But that started my Java journey, and I was a Java developer for 12 years, which eventually led me to Kroger here in Cincinnati. And I came in as a consultant, but realized very quickly that I loved the environment at Kroger. So I came on full time, and very shortly after that had an opportunity to get into management. So even though all of my technical career I had 12 years of Java and web development experience, databases, everything, I then got to manage software development teams. And I did that for another 8 years. So the significance of that, and you'll find that this is true of some of the other instructors at Max, is that we can give you instruction not only on the technology, because we've been in your shoes. We know what it's like to be a new developer. We know how to train new developers. We also know what those software development managers are looking for. So I spent 8 years trying to find talent, and I know what managers are looking for. So you will get technical instruction, plus you will get soft skills instruction, not only from that array of other instructors that you saw there, but also from your technical instructors. Daily, we will give you advice on what it's like to be a real developer and what those managers are looking for. But on the technical side of things, which is what this slide is talking about, this shows you the full range of technologies that you will learn in the boot camp. Source control, Git and GitHub. That's basically how you store your code and how you collaborate with others in your team environments once you get to your full-time job. Database skills. So every developer has to understand SQL. That is a universal language. So you will learn SQL, and the database management server that you use, it really, that's going to change over time, but those differences are minimal. But within the boot camp, it depends on which technology you're learning in. If it's Java, then you'll learn MySQL. If it's .NET, then you'll learn SQL Server. But they both are going to be very, very similar. The programming portion of boot camp, typically we have about 3.5 weeks of core Java or .NET. But now with the MAXimum camp, you're going to start on one, and you'll get, those 3-ish weeks on one technology, and then you'll turn around and spend another 2+ weeks on the other. Now, while my background is in Java, I am a senior instructor here at Max and teach both technologies. So all the instructors here know both. So it doesn't matter which one you start with, you will then get an equal immersion into the other technology. And the reason why we don't have to spend quite as long on the second technology is because once you learn the first, then it's just a little bit easier to learn the second. And that's going to be true as you evolve as a developer and as you learn other languages. But you get a full immersion in object-oriented programming principles and how to build very small applications. And then we work our way up into the model view controller, or MVC design. And that's really where we start talking about the other frameworks that you need in order to build web applications. Then we get into the different frameworks that you need to utilize. The Entity Manager framework for C#, the Spring framework, and Spring Boot for Java. By that time, you are actually building fully enabled web applications, which is really exciting. The biggest excitement I see out of students in the boot camp is when we start out really small, making these really basic applications. And then as you build into the bigger frameworks, you're actually building fully enabled RESTful web services. By the time you get to that point in boot camp, I think I want to interject something here, in that what's not mentioned on this page is the capstone project. So in order for you to graduate the boot camp, you have to build a full application that demonstrates the full stack of technologies that you've learned in boot camp. You don't have to worry about doing that all at the end, all at once. We break it up into little pieces along the way. And I forgot to mention this earlier, but by the time that you're done with the database portion of boot camp, you will have the database built for your capstone. Then by the time you're done with the MVC design and the frameworks portion, you will have your full back end of the application built. And by back end, we just mean the stuff that happens on the server. And I know for those of you brand new, you may not have a conceptual idea of what that means. That's basically saying that your front end application, once you have that, will be able to talk to your database and be able to run all of the services that you've created. So by the time you're done with that, you will have your back end portion done of your capstone, as well as many other small projects. I really encourage my developers to build hobby projects along the way. Anything that you are interested in your personal life, if you can start building applications that will harness your passion about just any kind of small application you might want to build, be it a game, be it a budget application or a project management application. The students different ideas. So we try to interject things where we encourage you to build those things, and we will help you. The instructors will help you try to perfect those as you go through boot camp. Then once we get into the web and user interface for the front end, that's where you learn the front end technologies, which would be things that you've probably heard of: HTML, CSS, JavaScript. Like, all of those things have been around for a very long time in development, and they're still used today, but those are primarily the technologies that are involved in your web browser. So when you want to render an application in a browser, you have to understand those things. So you get, baby stepped through the instruction. You learn HTML and CSS, then you learn JavaScript, and then you start learning the Angular framework, which is a JavaScript framework. And that's when things get really exciting, because that's when you actually get to see all that data and all those back-end services that you made earlier in bootcamp be rendered within a web application. So it's really, really cool. And then finally, the project development strategies around Agile and Scrum. That's where we have another instructor come in, and I believe that's Kelsey. I think she was in that list of instructors earlier, and you'll get 2 days of Agile and Scrum training, which is that is a project methodology or a development methodology that is widely used today by almost every major company. So you will come out of a boot camp with knowledge not only in how to develop and do the technical things, but how to operate within a team for what is expected of you as a developer in your jobs. Does that cover it, Dustin? Did I miss anything?
Yeah,
that was a lot.
I mean, I know I can't see everybody on video, but I feel like I can hear wheels turning, and yeah, we throw a lot of language at you of terminology that you may not be familiar with right now, and that's exciting. And you can tell that Sean's passionate about the work that he does, and that's really important in the room or virtually when you're dealing with an instructor, is you want somebody really emotionally invested. I'd like to talk to Mark from Ascendum for a moment, because for those that have not been on this before, I love having Mark on because he's extremely insightful when I get to ask him questions. And Mark, and I don't know if you knew this, but when you hear that a bootcamp is now transitioning to equally cover both Java and .NET, when you're thinking about hiring, what does that say to you about what's going on out in the world and in companies?
Well, I think the first thing I think of is that it gives exposure, to multiple technologies to people, and it overcomes what's the biggest challenge, I think, for most developers, is a fear of trying to attack something in the unknown. So I don't think you have to be an expert in any one thing to basically be a successful developer, but you need to have a level of confidence that you can work with your team, your agile team. So I think the fact that what I heard here is that you're continuing to add additional exposure of different things. That's going to help people, 1, overcome fear, 2, build some baseline competency, and 3, it's going to let them understand their likes and dislikes so they can self-guide their career path, a little bit more, even if it's not in the first assignment. It's the questions to ask along the way. So there's a lot that's going to get covered there. I don't hire for one specific tool, if it's this or that. You've heard me say that before for Java or C#, but I love people that like to work on new areas, new challenges. And so I really like this exposure concept. I think that helps build that core muscle and helps people get some freedom to think about what they want to do more.
What makes somebody a great hire for Ascendum? You and I have talked about this, and I think it's one of the best questions. But what makes somebody a great hire, and they can be a good part of your team?
Well, I think the first one is that they need to be able to express their viewpoint, whether they either have something they want to share with the group to be able to actually drive to an outcome, or to ask a question to advance their learning. Either way is fine, but I love the fact there's 2 days of Agile in there, because it's really that teaming. I'm looking for that grit. I'm looking for that energy, somebody who wants to contribute, someone who's not afraid to share their opinion or to be a good listener to others. The impact you make in an organization like ours, which is an entrepreneurial one, is how you can amplify the ideas of others and amplify your learning with opportunities that are brought to you. And this is really just a toolbox in my mind that can be used as an entry point. From our company, without going too much longer, I'll say we have a number of alumni, and one of them sent me a message 2 hours ago. It's not the reason I was late for the call. Again, apologies for that. It was my CEO lost track of time, but he's coordinating, release launches right now for us on a large footwear retailer, where he manages their production launches and he helps code on some of the feature releases. And he's been out of the program for a couple of years. He guided himself down to that project because he's a sneakerhead and he loves back end over front end, and he likes the ability to be part of stand-ups, but he loves to really get into the details and to troubleshoot and problem solve. So he self-guided himself down that way, where some other people want to go more front end. So I like the fact that I like how I see their career paths evolve with the things that they're learning and getting exposed to. I guess is the best way of putting it.
How do you identify that lifelong learner, in the interview? How do you identify that person, like you said, that has that grit? Is that something, I think grit is hard to see on a resume. So, what are some of the things that you see in your interviews that you kind of notice that are identifiers that, for our people that are with us today, when they hit that interview room, what can they keep in mind?
The only way to do that is to actually have discussions, not interviews. I kind of hate the word interview, but I do them. But when it works, because it's a discussion, it's an exchange of ideas, and that's really what it is once it's in the workforce anyway. So those questions that I ask that are meant to get to know the person better and then get to understand where they light up again. And it's really, that's where the spark kind of hits, where you can kind of figure out, okay, this is the path of how I might be able to connect what they do with what we do, and kind of set up some mentors along the way. But so it's the body language is important. Being able to interact and really get to people, see how people interact to questions. Because that's your best chance of being a mentor. At least for us, for me, it's big about mentorship. If you're investing this amount of time, it's how can we put you on the right path that you want to be on.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Mark. If you're able to, and we'll try and conclude the presentation somewhere between 6:45 and 6:50. And if Mark's here for the Q&A, and Mark, we understand if you need to drop off. So just in case, I'll thank you for your time now. And I know that, we're taking up some of your evenings, so I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'll hang on for a bit. I'm just going to turn my video off for a second, turn it back on when we get to Q&A if there's any for me.
Sure. Thank you very much, Mark. So I'm going to keep working through here. And if there's one thing that you can note from what you just heard from Mark, Mark had some great responses for us. I heard very little technical language in what he was saying. And if you think back to our slide about the team that we surround you with, it was a lot about engaging with other people, how you work with other people, the things you say, your body language. It was not about the coding, very much at all. And so that's something that I think that if you can take that away from today, it's really important. But your experience with Max is going to be unique because of the access to our experts, like Sean and Greg Dowd, Annette, and it's about the knowledge transfer. It's about your experience in that knowledge transfer. It's not just somebody trying to teach you something, it's how it feels when that's happening. And also, everything we have inside of the bootcamp is field relevant. We continue conversations with our hiring partners. We hear from our alumni. Our instructors still stay connected to the field through people that are in their network. And your bootcamp experience is career focused. We talk a lot about the technology and the coding, but at the end of the day, you need to get a job. And we want you to find a job that you're happy with and that you can find, like Mark said, that spark. And I think that's something a lot of us want in our career. And the capstone project is unique. Sean talked about that. And it's the culmination of all of your work. And it's a really powerful tool that you can give our hiring partners or a company access to, and they can see you actually made this. So you have proof of your work, and that proof is what you're going to put into your demo day. So you're going to have an opportunity to right now virtually meet some of our hiring partners and do your presentation for demo day of your capstone. And you'll do that presentation in a team effort where you coordinate with the other people in your boot camp to deliver that presentation. And that's a lot of fun. More importantly, Max is a family. It's something that it's hard for me to explain to you because it's not just a training center. It's not just a room of chairs and tables and computers. It's full of life and people that actually care about your outcome. And if you come in the building, if you haven't been in yet, you can feel it by the people that you talk to, and hopefully through this presentation, because that's really what we're trying to give you exposure to. And so, I'd like to introduce, Anthony joined us a little bit late, but we do have one of our alumni with us. Anthony Price is joining us from, he's at QC Software currently as an app developer. And I've talked to Anthony, and we'd like to give you guys some exposure to our alumni and their experience. So Anthony, you want to just give us a few minutes of what was it like going through the boot camp, what your boot camp experience was like, and kind of what you've learned from it?
Yeah, so I mean, I would really just say it's very modular, and like you go through each step, like you build up to that final project really well. And they definitely help you. Like when Dustin says it's a family, like that is full on true. Like anything you need, like they're there to help you. I mean, like if I had questions or anything like that, Sean was there, Greg was there. After the boot camp, Annette was with me the whole time until I got hired. So it definitely is like a family. Like they care about where you end up when it's all said and done. And I mean, really, they do give you the tools. Like there's so much, like having the job now, there's so much to learn even after the boot camp, but they make sure you're ready to be able to teach yourself those things. And I'll even say, like, if I've had questions and things like that well after boot camp, like they're still there to answer those questions. So they definitely stay with you even after the fact.
So before you considered going into the boot camp, what were some of your concerns? I won't necessarily call them fears, but what worried you about this type of life-changing decision?
Really just it was such a big change. I was working at a Verizon store as a store manager and had been doing that for 5 years. And, it's definitely an investment you're making. But if you put in the work, it's definitely worth it.
And you had, I mean, you and I have talked. You had an interesting journey. You were facing the pandemic and everything that was going on, and to see where you are right now. Now that you see that you've made it through that time, what's it like? What was it like on the first day? To have that weight is gone and you're starting. Like, what was that first day like?
It was very much a relief. I'll give a little bit of backstory for the people listening or whatever, that I graduated last March, like the week before the state was shut down for the pandemic. So I went from, having a lot of prospects to not a lot because no one wanted to hire during that time. So it was a long journey getting hired. And I started the 1st of February at QC, and I was so happy to be there, and it's just gotten better since I started. So it's been great.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Let me keep rolling through this so that way we have plenty of time for Q&A, and we also have to hear from Annette. So Anthony, thank you. If you can hang on with us till we get to our Q&A, we may have some questions from some of our guests. But Annette, you're the star of the show now, and like Anthony said, wow, what a journey. And you were there throughout all of it. So obviously the career services are not just about what happens in the room. There's quite a bit more that goes into it. Why don't you give everybody a brief introduction, and then let them know how we're going to help them get to that career they're looking for.
I'm trying not to cry. I mean, my eyes are full of tears. Just so happy for Anthony, and just how that the entire organization, even Denise, was a big part of Anthony's job opportunity. And so, Anthony, I celebrate your achievement and your perseverance through not just going through a part-time boot camp while you worked full-time, but just that journey beyond. And it's great to see you tonight through my tears. So what we do is we really help people. And I think that that's why I'm involved, is that you get an opportunity to make a difference in someone's life. And I wanted to be a nurse. 2 years of Latin in high school. I did candy striper at Fort Hamilton Hospital for 4 years, but I learned I can't do body fluids. So literally I pass out when we do first aid training. So I found that my way of really helping people is coming alongside them and helping them towards employment. And I've been doing this since 1999. So we leverage the Gallup strengths in order to identify those things that you really do well naturally. We come alongside you and make sure that you look great on paper, get your resume in tip-top shape that becomes a marketing tool. We get your LinkedIn ready, your cover letter, your references. We work on what we call the power message, that tell me about yourself. We get you ready for interviews. We have a couple of employers come in and do an employer showcase that just give you an opportunity to ask questions to the employers. And they talk a little bit about their hiring process and what it is they're looking for. So Mark, I need to know, what is a sneakerhead, and do I need to put that on resumes?
So sneakerhead, the person that's a graduate that worked for us, actually one of our clients is Foot Locker. So a sneakerhead is a collector of sneakers. It's somebody who really wants to get the latest kicks, likes the different colorways that come out, the collaborations. So we have one person who was really, really big into sneakers, and it turned out that one of our projects was with Foot Locker. So it wasn't his first project, but he found his way to that account within the first year and built whatever skills were needed to get on that account. And yeah, it's been a good journey for him.
This is just an example. We like to really keep our finger on the pulse of what employers are looking for and what they want. And I value what you have to say, Mark. I don't know that sneakerhead then will appear on any resumes, but maybe come up in an interview with you.
You might go in a discussion with me, but it's pretty cool because now every week he's working on a project where they launch the newest sneakers, and he's the guy working on the lottery system that we built the software for reservations, so people can actually win these sneakers. So every week when they roll out, he rolls them out and configures, he makes sure they're lost. He gets to find out and roll the dice and run the program to see who's getting awarding and work through any of the kinks. So he especially liked the Grinch sneakers last year that came out that were in lime green.
That's awesome.
So just lastly, I'll land and say that we stay with you. So Anthony alluded to it, but while you're in job search, we continue. And matter of fact, I'll be slipping off here in about 5 minutes. I have group coaching on Tuesday nights. And so I meet with those still in job search and help them to identify and overcome barriers in their job search to help them get to their career goal. And it's great to see that employers are starting to hire, and we're anxious to help you get where you want to go. It's great to meet y'all and to be with you tonight.
Thank you very much, Annette. And of course, you can cut off whenever you need to go help our students and people find their careers. So Kevin, You're up next because listen, we've thrown the technology at you. You know who our team is. Hopefully you've gotten to experience what it's, what it's like to be a part of the Max family. And so now it's just about carrying this momentum and taking the steps in the right direction. And Kevin, I know you've talked to some of the people that are on our call, but just give them a quick breakdown of what they need to do and how they get accepted.
Sure. Thanks, Dustin. Pretty simple. The first step here is let's meet. Let's have a discussion. Let's talk about your goals. It's a chance for us to get to know each other. It's a chance for me to answer any questions that you have about our program. And then, if we both feel like this could be an option for you, then the next step would be to take the assessment. It's a logic and reason assessment that has 20 questions. It consists of true, false, multiple choice, and some other problem solving questions. Takes 30 minutes to complete, and you must score a 75 to pass. Before that, we have you take our mini assessment that's on our website for practice. It's the same exact assessment, just has 10 less questions. And it takes you about 10 minutes to get through it, but it's really great to get familiarize yourself with these questions. And the third is determining financing. We'll have an in-depth conversation around financing and talk about the many creative options that are available to you, which we'll get here in a minute when we turn it back over to Dustin. To get accepted, we have approximately 75 students that get accepted and graduate our program a year. We're a well-respected program throughout the IT community. This is an elite boot camp. We're very selective in the admissions process because, like Annette mentioned, we're and Dustin, we truly have a passion for helping people. We want you to succeed, and we'll support you in any way in your journey. However, we do understand that there's, not everybody has this aptitude to do this kind of work. So we try our best to figure that out. If a potential boot camper prospect doesn't meet the criteria, this is not the end. We can talk about, different stepping stones and options to eventually get you there. And financing is usually the biggest barrier for people until they realize all the different options there are. So let's turn it back to Dustin to kind of explore those options.
I'm going to keep the bootcamp financing very simple. There are a lot of options. Don't let it stop you from considering a bootcamp. And the best thing you can do is talk to Kevin, talk to our advisors. There are multiple programs available. It can be as simple as you writing a check, or it can be as complex as mixing financing from two different opportunities within the state or local community that we have access to. So I'm not going to complicate the situation by going over each and every one of these opportunities, but whether you're a veteran, it's the GI Bill, or maybe you're underemployed or unemployed, and Ohio Means Jobs is a fit. Give us a call and let us know what your situation is, and let's talk through it and figure out what we can do. And we can really just keep it that simple. But the first thing you need to do is to give the assessment a try. So call Kevin, jump onto our website, check out more information, and you can actually take the mini assessment right on this web page. So if I go back to that URL, maxtrain.com/career-bootcamps, and you can actually try the mini assessment and just take it for a spin, kick the tires on it, and see if you like even going through some of those exercises, some of those logic and reasoning exercises. And so keep in mind, the MAXimum Bootcamp is coming up, and I've got our entire lineup that's available here in the going through the summer. But you could be in the very first graduating class of multi-language developers in Java and .NET. And so the MAXimum Bootcamp starts in May, and then we've got a data analytics starting in July. and a part-time Java starting in August. So these are our 3 upcoming boot camps. We do have specific dates, but there's some flexibility in that. And, you know, sometimes we may push a day or 2 to make sure we get a student that really wants in to get in. So reach out to Kevin, take your assessment, but let's go ahead and use our last moments here that we have. I know we started a little late, so I actually feel real good about our timing. Azizbek, Kiros, I know we lost Solomon there, so he probably had to go. Now is the perfect time to ask anybody any questions that you have. If it's about the technology, you can point it to Sean. If you'd like to talk to Mark about, you know, asking questions about his company and just find out information from where he's coming from. Azizbek, Kiros, do you have any questions for our guests? Don't be shy.
No, I'm not shy. I think I have a question about the part-time. As you said, if you have a family or like something like financial, so do you think the part-time is as much as successful like the full-time?
Let me make sure. Go ahead, Sean. Sean, do you? Let's let me make sure I'm muted.
Yeah, so I can answer that if that's okay.
Go right ahead. Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So it sounds like the question was if you have financial consideration. I assume you're talking about maybe working full time during the camp. Is that right?
Yes. Mhm.
Yeah. So that's why the full-time camp is there for people that can't quit their day job. Most of the
Part-time.
students, yes, the part-time. Most of the students coming through the part-time camp, and I've taught 3 part-time camps now. Most of those students have to juggle the financial responsibility to keep money coming in while they are taking the boot camp. And that is why the part-time schedule is the way that it is, so that we can accommodate that. And I think the other question you had was, can it be as effective as a full-time camp? And that answer is absolutely. The number of hours in the part-time camp is equivalent to the number of hours in the full-time camp. Now, the MAXimum camp is a little different. You know, that's brand new. So they don't line up exactly, but if you look at the current full-time boot camp, which is focused on either Java or .NET, the part-time camp is 100% in line with that instruction. So you come out of the boot camp with the same instruction that you would get in the regular full-time camp. And what I've heard universally from the students that come to the part-time camp is that that gives them the ability to not only maintain their job, but it also spreads out the instruction enough so that you have more time to work on the homework. And it's more, it's a slower paced camp. And just by sheer numbers, you have to slow it down for people that are working full time. Anthony was a graduate of our part-time camp. So, and he was very successful in that. So, so did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Sure.
And Kiros, actually, Mark, you have Nick Law on your team of individuals, and I know you are quite proud of that get. And Nick came out of the Denise, wasn't it the very first part-time boot camp? Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and here's a development.
I think it was, yeah.
So you can tell, I mean, Kiros, you can hear, Mark, you can tell us a little bit about Nick since we still have you. And I know we've got another minute. And so I do want to make good use of your time, but I know Nick personally, so I know who you got, but you know, I think you found out you got way more than than what may have been originally thought. And he came out of part-time. So
has he updated you in the last week or so on his latest?
no. Oh, I'm excited.
So Nick ran through the Max program. He was part of our continuing learning education team last year. He's always been active in the culture club and working on multiple different tech teams. But we have right now, just in that Thanksgiving to February kind of time frame, we had a transition in some of the work that we were doing. We still do all the same, but the pipeline's changing. We're needing more
we're needing more and more mobile. We're needing a little more data analytics. There's people that want to learn more. There's people that so he is currently leading a cohort and spearheading a cohort and coordinating the training program for continuing education that we're doing internally. And the instructors are different employees within our group, but he's actually coordinating it. He's actually going to run one of the sessions. So as we're trying to build, additional depth and exposure to new technologies and things that they maybe don't work on in their 40 hours a week, or maybe it's 3 days a week, we're splitting people off to have time to invest in learning other tools. And he is now leading cohort training for us. So that's
very cool
for him. And yeah, so I'll have to share some of that back with you guys.
Not surprised a bit.
And what I love about Nick is that he had no technical background before he started the boot camp. He wasn't even a closet geek. He was working in the restaurant business as a manager. So that just shows that anyone can do this if they have the desire.
It does come down to some of the grit. I mean, we had another one that was a sous chef.
Yep.
And they applied that, and they've done great things for us. And actually, they just moved on from our organization because they saw something that they liked with another company that was going to be able to take kind of where we were going the career path. But it's a great situation for them. And I can't say enough about the exposure. And I think, Heroes, for what you're trying to do, the key is what's your learning style? What's the pace that you're going to take it through? And just think of them as tools that you would pick up along the way to apply. It sounds like you have a great attitude towards it. And I don't think one program or the other will make a big difference. It's really going to be just the intensity of the program.
Absolutely. Well, Mark, thank you very much. Kiros, thank you for your time. You're our last guest standing. So Anthony, thank you for sharing, and thank you for joining us. You are always welcome. Same, Mark. I really appreciate this. You're a great guest. Denise, thank you very much. Sean, Kevin, I'll talk to you guys soon and see you later. Kiros, stay connected with Kevin, and hopefully we see you in our May boot camp. But everybody have a great night. Stay healthy, stay safe, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks, Dustin.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everybody.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.